Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to look at a business story that kind of makes you rethink what success really means.
Yeah.
We're focusing on the D.W. Brooks Funeral Home. They were just announced as the winners of the 2025 D2 Strong Community Pathfinder for Progress Award.
When you hear about business awards, especially for longevity or progress, you usually expect, well, a story about huge profits or maybe rapid expansion, franchising, that kind of thing.
Right.
What really stands out here with D.W. Brooks is that their foundation, it seems, wasn't built just on quarterly returns. It was built on faith and service.
Exactly. So that's what we want to explore today. Their journey, it's over 35 years now. We need to kind of unpack the elements of faith, family, and that community focus that comes through and figure out how those core values led them to win this specific award, the Pathfinder Award, which is all about leading progress in the community. And what jumps out right away is how they described the beginning. It wasn't primarily a business venture. It was started as a, quote, heartfelt ministry of compassion.
And that phrase, ministry of compassion, that sounds like more than just, marketing speak. It feels like an actual operating philosophy.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you run an organization dealing with grief, with loss, maybe the most profound human experience, and you frame it first as a ministry, that affects everything.
Okay.
Pricing, how you hire staff, the empathy required, it just sets the bar incredibly high from the start.
Okay, so let's dig into where that started. The foundational year, say 1990 to 95, began in 1990, founded by Pastor Danny W. Brooks Sr. in Gonzales, Texas.
Right, Gonzales, small town.
Yeah, exactly. A place where your reputation, good or bad, probably spreads pretty fast.
And that small town context is really crucial, I think, for understanding how they built their identity. In a place like Gonzales, the service has to be deeply personal. You likely know the families you're serving. The core principle, as it's described, was rooted entirely in Pastor Brooks Sr.'s unwavering faith and this real commitment to dignity.
So treating people right was paramount.
Exactly. And when you operate like that in a small community, your success isn't just measured by, say, volume. It's measured by how many people feel you genuinely helped them start to heal.
So it wasn't about scaling up right away. It was about serving deeply first. But let me ask you this. How hard is it, practically, to keep that ministry focus? I mean, funeral services involve huge logistics, capital.
Oh, it's immensely difficult, no question. It needs constant checking, to make sure the necessary business parts, the paperwork, the facilities, all the logistics don't end up overshadowing that primary mission, the emotional care.
Right.
But starting out rooted in that spiritual commitment rather than just a corporate strategy seems to have given them a really solid core. An anchor.
Okay.
It laid the groundwork for them to eventually become this pillar of excellence in funeral care because they defined excellence differently, not as flashy, but as consistent dignity.
And that trust was key for the next step.
Absolutely. That bedrock of trust was essential.
And that next step was pretty bold. In 1995, just 5 years in, Pastor Brooks moves the business to San Antonio, specifically setting up on the city's east side.
Yeah, that's a huge leap. From small-town Gonzales to a major city like San Antonio.
So what's the significance of choosing the east side? That wasn't random, presumably.
No, I don't think so. Expanding to San Antonio's east side wasn't just about finding a bigger market. It felt like a deliberate move into a community with, deep historical roots, but also its own specific socioeconomic challenges.
Okay.
It showed a commitment, maybe, to a population that might sometimes feel overlooked by bigger, more impersonal institutions. By putting down roots there, they essentially took on the role of a real community anchor, not just another service provider.
And then over the next, almost 20 years, 1995 to 2014, they built this really solid reputation. How do you earn that kind of trust, especially in a diverse city dealing with something as sensitive as grief?
Well, it seems it was earned through just being relentless and consistent. The way it's described, their service philosophy transcends business and speaks to the heart of community service.
What does that mean in practice, do you think?
It suggests doing more than just the basics in the contract. Maybe offering flexible payment options if a family's struggling, or really helping them navigate all the bureaucracy that comes with loss, or just being present in the community, outside of funerals. They became known for professionalism, sure, but the key things mentioned are empathy and integrity.
Yeah, that word integrity feels really important in this industry. When a family is at their most vulnerable,
Absolutely.
the provider's integrity is kind of the only thing protecting them from well, potential issues or just disappointment.
Totally. And the information shows that over these 35 years, they served families from, quote, every walk of life. That implies they really mastered cultural sensitivity.
San Antonio is incredibly diverse.
Exactly. So being consistent while also embracing specific cultural needs, different faith traditions, that's a huge task. That really is a mark of excellence. It shows they weren't just operating a business on the east side, they were becoming part of the community's fabric. They understood the public trust involved.
So, okay, we've got 2 decades of this deep foundational community building. Then comes the moment that trips up so many family businesses, passing it on.
A transition.
We move into this phase of generational progress, modernization, starting around 2014.
And this is where the story gets really interesting from a business legacy perspective. In 2014, Pastor Brooks Sr. formally hands over the reins to his sons, Danny W. Brooks Jr. and Danzel Brooks.
Big moment.
Huge. And the biggest risk here is always, the next generation might want to grow too fast or maybe dilute those core values chasing profits.
But it seems like the opposite happened, or at least they balanced it. We see real signs of growth and innovation, but in ways that seem committed to the community.
Like what?
Well, a full remodel of the main location on East Houston Street, that's a major reinvestment right back into the heart of their community.
Right. That signals respect.
And then developing a second facility, this one on the northeast side of San Antonio.
See, that dual approach is smart. Remodeling the original place honors the community that supported them from the start. It says, we value this neighborhood, we're investing here. And then expanding to the northeast side. That's a logical business move, taking their trusted service model to a new area, but importantly, doing it after they'd already established such a strong ethical base.
Let's just pause on that tension, though. The father built something described as a ministry. The sons inherit what is now a business needing significant capital, modern tech, expansion. Was there pressure, do you think, to maybe drop the ministry talk and just focus on the bottom line?
That's the fascinating part. It seems they didn't view ministry and modernization as opposites. Danny Jr. and Danzel seem to have realized that the way they delivered service could evolve, nicer facilities, better tech, wider reach. But the reason behind it, the motive, had to stay the same.
So they updated the how, but not the why.
Exactly. The key insight is that they managed to honor their father's original vision while at the same time modernizing the ministry of comfort. They showed that faith-led service isn't static. It can adapt and grow without losing its soul.
They managed to translate a philosophy into a business that's not just surviving, but actually growing sustainably.
Right.
Which brings us right back to the award. The ultimate validation, maybe? D2 Strong chose them for this Community Pathfinder for Progress Award. And this isn't just like best small business. It's specifically about community leadership. Why D.W. Brooks?
Well, D2 Strong seems to focus on organizations that aren't just doing well within their environment, but are actively shaping it for the better. The award highlights how the business transformed loss into an opportunity for healing and hope. That wording implies action, not just passive service.
Okay, and there are 3 specific areas mentioned that seem to push them into that Pathfinder category. Guiding families through grief, obviously, that's the core service.
Motivational.
But also actively mentoring young professionals and significantly reinvesting back into the East Side community.
Okay, mentoring young professionals, that's a really critical community service, especially in funeral services, which demands so much emotional intelligence and skill. This suggests they might be running actual training programs, maybe apprenticeships, aimed specifically at lifting up young people from the East Side, offering them stable, meaningful careers. That's huge.
Yeah, that's not just providing a service, that's building local talent and opportunity.
Exactly. They're exporting hope in a way.
And the reinvestment piece. Putting money back into the community through excellence, through leadership.
Yeah.
That shows a long-term belief in the neighborhood's future, right?
Yeah.
Not just they're all business prospects there.
Precisely. It shows they're actively trying to shape a positive narrative for the East Side.
So what does it mean to be a Pathfinder then, based on this?
It seems it's not about being the biggest company, but maybe the most impactful. These are leaders who don't just succeed in their business, but they measurably strengthen the whole community they're part of.
Okay.
The Brooks story really becomes a kind of blueprint for that kind of progress, showing consistency, integrity, and how to pass that down through generations. They achieved stability and success because of their service model, not despite it.
So if you zoom out and look at this whole 35-year legacy, it really does circle back to that initial vision from Gonzales, doesn't it?
It does.
The award basically confirms that core idea.
Yeah.
Real success isn't just about staying power, but about how deeply you serve others.
Absolutely. It reinforces that idea that maybe compassion is the foundation of progress. What
Yeah.
D.W. Book's funeral home shows is that when your main focus is the depth of service and care, when you prioritize the human element, the trust and loyalty that generates, can build a sustainable generational business that just naturally lifts the community around it.
Wow.
They're leaving a legacy built not just on, buildings or assets, but on earned trust and creating opportunities.
It's quite a journey. From that small town ministry concept in Gonzales to this dynamic generational business being recognized on a bigger stage for leading community progress.
Yeah.
It kind of forces you to reconsider the metrics we usually use to judge institutions.
It really does. It's a powerful counter story to the idea that business success has to be cold or impersonal. The Brooks family seems to have proved that deeply personal, faith-led service can actually be the most effective long-term strategy.
And that leads us perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
The D.W. Brooks story sets this standard, where compassion, where deep community service, that's the real measure of success.
Yep.
So if true success, like this D2 Strong Award suggests, is measured by how deeply an institution serves, well, what metrics are you using? How do you evaluate the pillars of trust in your own community?
Yeah. Are you just looking at their size or their profits? Or are you looking deeper? Are you asking how genuinely they're investing in the well-being, the healing, the future opportunities of the community they claim to serve?
Something to think about next time you interact with an institution you rely on.